Clara Harris was not the kind of person anyone imagined would one day be at the center of one of the most infamous crimes of passion in American history. She was a successful dentist, a mother of twin boys, and a respected member of her Houston community. To her friends, colleagues, and neighbors, she seemed to embody the perfect suburban life. A thriving career, a loving family, and the kind of stability many aspired to. But behind the polished exterior, Clara's world was quietly unraveling. A storm of betrayal, rage, and heartbreak was gathering, and before long, it would explode into a tragedy that shocked the nation. Clara met David Harris in the 1990s, and together they built a dental practice that quickly grew into one of the most successful in their area. Patients admired them as a power couple, charming, ambitious, and seemingly inseparable. By the time they welcomed twin boys, Clara believed she had everything she had ever dreamed of: a handsome husband, a beautiful family, and a future filled with promise. But David, despite the life they had built, grew restless. His charm and confidence, which had first attracted Clara, also drew the attention of others. And soon, temptation found its way into their marriage. Came in the form of Gail Bridges, a woman who worked at the dental office. What began as a professional connection turned into an affair. For David, it was an escape from the responsibilities of fatherhood and marriage, a secret thrill. For Clara, once she discovered the truth, it was a devastating betrayal. Her world, which had seemed so stable, was suddenly on shaky ground. Betrayal cut at her deepest values: family, loyalty, trust. She begged David to end the relationship, tried to win him back through counseling, through self-improvement, even confronting Gail directly. But the affair persisted, leaving Clara trapped between denial and despair. By mid-2002, her desperation turned into obsession. She hired a private investigator, determined to prove what her heart already knew, that David was still with Gail. On July 24th of that year, the investigator delivered the news Clara dreaded most. David and Gail were meeting at the Nassau Bay Hilton Hotel. That evening, Clara drove there, her teenage stepdaughter Lindsay in the car with her. As she pulled into the hotel parking lot, she saw them, David and Gail, together walking hand in hand. To Clara, it was the ultimate humiliation. Her rage and heartbreak boiled over, and the confrontation that followed inside the hotel lobby grew loud and public. Witnesses recalled Clara shouting, David trying to calm her, and Gail standing nearby, silent but unshaken. What happened next turned a moment of betrayal into an act of irreversible violence. Clara stormed out into the parking lot, emotions raging. Lindsay sat in the passenger seat, terrified. But Clara didn't drive home. Instead, she circled the lot, her eyes fixed on David and Gail. In those seconds, her Mercedes-Benz became more than a car. It became a weapon. Witnesses later described the horrific scene as Clara accelerated toward David, striking him once, then circling back to run over him again. Some said she looped around 3 times. Each pass crushed not just David's body, but the life Clara had worked so hard to build. Lindsay screamed for her to stop, but Clara was consumed by fury. By the time she finally halted, David lay lifeless on the pavement. The man she had once loved, the father of her children, was dead at her hands. The aftermath was immediate. Police arrested Clara at the scene. The image of the suburban dentist turned killer spread quickly across the media, captivating the nation. The story had everything: love, betrayal, wealth, and rage, and the headlines branded it as a classic crime of passion. But beyond the sensationalism, the justice system now faced a complex question. Was Clara Harris a cold-blooded murderer, or was she a heartbroken wife who lost control? At trial, prosecutors presented her as consumed by jealousy, unable to accept her husband's betrayal. They pointed to the brutality of her actions, the repeated circling of the car, as proof this was no accident. To them, it was deliberate. The defense, however, painted her as a woman pushed past reason by humiliation and heartbreak. They argued she acted in a sudden emotional storm, not with premeditation. They reminded the jury that Clara had dedicated her life to David and their family, only to be discarded for another woman. She was not a monster, they claimed, but a tragic figure overwhelmed by emotions too powerful to contain. The trial became national theater. Witnesses described the confrontation in the hotel lobby, the horrifying moments in the parking lot, and Lindsay's terrified screams from the car. The most devastating testimony came from Lindsay herself, who recounted watching her stepmother kill her father before her eyes. The jury listened, weighed the arguments, and faced the central question: passion or murder? In February 2003, the verdict came down. Clara Harris was found guilty of murder, but the jury gave her a sentence of 20 years, shorter than life, reflecting their recognition of the emotional storm that drove her actions. For Clara, it meant prison until at least her mid-40s, her freedom exchanged for a future defined by the crime of one night. Her sons, just 6 years old at the time, would grow up without their mother. Her stepdaughter would forever carry the trauma of what she witnessed. And the family, once bound by love, was shattered. Prison transformed Clara's life completely. Gone were the comforts of suburban success. She became inmate Harris, serving her sentence in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Yet even behind bars, she was described as polite, disciplined, and a model prisoner. She worked prison jobs, attended church, and mentored others. Some saw this as evidence that she was never a hardened criminal, just a woman who made a catastrophic choice in a moment of fury. But good behavior could not erase the reality of her actions or the loss they caused. Meanwhile, the public fascination with her case endured. Documentaries, TV specials, and books kept the story alive. For some, she remained a figure of sympathy, a betrayed wife pushed to the edge. For others, she was proof of how dangerous unchecked rage can be. Her name became synonymous with crime of passion, a term forever tied to the parking lot of the Nassau Bay Hilton. After serving 15 years, Clara Harris was released on parole in 2018. She was 50 years old, her career destroyed, her reputation forever stained. She slipped quietly out of prison, avoiding the spotlight, hoping to live out her remaining years in peace. But the echoes of her crime still follow her. To many, she is the woman who turned her Mercedes into a weapon of vengeance, whose heartbreak ended not in tears but in death. The story of Clara Harris endures because it is about more than one woman's crime. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How far can betrayal push someone? What happens when love curdles into rage? And are even ordinary people capable of extraordinary violence when their world collapses? Clara's case is a chilling reminder of the thin line between devotion and destruction. In the end, she will always be remembered as the suburban dentist who let heartbreak turn to fury, and whose split-second decision turned her life, and the lives around her, into tragedy. If you find this story gripping, subscribe to Real Life Mysteries True Crime.